Today's book review, The 50th Law of Power by 50 Cent and Robert Greene. So I actually read the 48 Laws of Power, and that was definitely one of my favorite books of all time. So I thought, why not buy the 50th Law of Power by 50 Cent and Robert Greene? Now I was a bit skeptical of this book, because I thought maybe 50 Cent had done it for commercial purposes, but I got a lot out of it, and it's a fantastic read. Now I should tell you that power is basically the essence of getting what you want. There's many ways to get what you want, and I think in corporate America we basically think of power as a refined way to manipulate your way to success. Now no matter how much sophistication you use, there's other ways of obtaining power. And 50 Cent basically shows you with ghetto techniques that there are other ways you can get power which are more than applicable to corporate America. And I got a lot out of this book, so I'd like to share with you some of the stuff that I learned. The very first thing 50 Cent talks about is fear. Now I think a lot of us live in a world where we fear everything. We are just taught from a young age to live in fear, and people really live their lives afraid of so many different things rather than going after something. And I think that if you truly want to be successful, you need to stop fearing things and you need to start going after what you really want. Now for 50 Cent, fear was literal. You know, he literally feared dying. His mother had been murdered when he was 8 years old, and he never knew his father. For a lot of us, fear is metaphorical. We fear being judged by others, we fear going down the wrong path in life, we fear not getting where we want to go. 50 Cent was someone who never feared anything, basically. He never saw any reason to doubt that he would get where he wanted to get to. And I think if you look at many truly successful people, you really need to believe in yourself. You really need to eliminate as much fear as you can from your life to get to where you want to go. Fear is a difficult emotion to control. There's so much psychology behind the human emotion of fear. It's ingrained within us genetically. We were fearful as animals and we would run away for survival. So fear is a natural human instinct. However, what 50 Cent teaches you is, in the modern world, fear is something that just holds you back. The more you go after what you want to get, and the less fearful you are, the more likely you are to succeed. And 50 Cent mastered the art of fear. He was shot 9 times. He was never afraid of anything. He knew that he would rather die than live his life in fear. And I think for a lot of us, you know, if we can really overcome fear and really focus on our objectives, we'll get a lot further. On that exact topic is intense realism. So 50 Cent discusses looking at life from a realistic perspective and looking at life the way it is. Charlie Munger says the same thing. And basically, the more you distort your reality, the more you live in self-denial, the more difficult things are going to be. 50 Cent knew when he was poor, for example, that he needed to hustle. He needed to make money, and there was no other way. He never made hustling out to be something that it wasn't. He knew it was dangerous. He knew that if he kept doing it forever, he would probably die or be in prison. And I think a lot of us, we live in hope. We live with the expectation that somehow things will change when they won't. Someone like Elon Musk, he talks about that most people's thinking is wishful thinking. And I think that if you are able to embrace reality and really enjoy reality and enjoy the grind, you'll get further. Now for me, for example, when I was really young, I had lofty goals, but I didn't realize the reality of those goals, which meant work, which meant a lot of time, a lot of practice, and a lot of effort. The more I've come to realize reality and accepting reality for what it is, it's made me happy and it's made me more likely to get to where I want to go. It's difficult to do. If things are unpleasant, there is a human tendency to deny. But if you can overcome this, it will help you get further in life, trust me. On that, 50 Cent talks about mastery. Now if you analyze the concept of boredom, most people these days are bored when they don't do anything for a minute or two. So 50 Cent says, you need to enjoy the art of boredom. You know, he would just do nothing for hours sometimes just so he could reflect and think, and do everything he could to be void of the emotion of boredom. Attention spans are so low these days. Sometimes, you know, people tell me to cut videos down, cut articles down, because people just don't have the attention span to listen or hear anything for an extended period of time. You will be successful if you have a long attention span. And the subject of mastery, mastery takes time, mastery takes patience, and mastery takes a lot of effort. You won't be a master of anything if you don't put in the time, if you don't have the patience, and you don't put in the effort. And what 50 Cent says is you need to enjoy the process of mastering something. You need to enjoy the grind. Instead of being bored or frustrated or moving on to the next thing, you need to set yourself a goal, work towards that goal consistently, and do whatever it takes to get to that goal. Don't be frustrated. Don't think that things may take longer than you expected. Just keep working, keep chugging on, and success will come. And that is the essence of mastery. There's no shortcuts, there's no tricks, there's no way to skip steps. You just have to do things in order. And that is a fantastic, fantastic lesson in life. On that, 50 Cent talks about the notion of aggression and measured aggression. I think we live in a world where people are also afraid of confrontation. People don't want to say anything that offends anything or anyone. People want to avoid as much as they can confrontation. And what 50 Cent talks about is, if you want to get where you want to get to in life, you need to be able to master things, but you also need to be assertive and selectively aggressive. You need to pick your fights. So what he talks about is basically, if you want to get to where you want to get to, you need to be able to push back, you need to be able to control people, and you need to be able to be authoritative about what you want and the vision for what you want, basically, if you have a project, say. And this is extremely, extremely important. I think for myself sometimes, I'm reluctant to be assertively aggressive. And this just causes me more difficulty, because something that I could resolve immediately could end up taking weeks, just because I don't want to pursue a certain line of aggression or a certain line of assertiveness. Someone like 50 Cent, he had to be assertive. He needed to control his territory. He needed to get other people to respect him in ghetto America. So there was no choice but to be assertive. I think a lot of people nowadays are passive aggressive because we live in a corporate world where you don't have to be aggressive, and you can get by being passive, or you can escape scenarios. People do anything they can to avoid this kind of confrontation. What 50 Cent shows you is you should embrace confrontation, you should selectively use aggression, and you should disarm people with it. There's no reason to fear it. And I think that is a valuable insight for anyone in corporate America. On that, he also talks about the subject of authority. You need to be able to lead from the front. You need to be able to have a vision for where you want to go, and you need to push people in the direction, monitor them in the direction that you want to go. Be assertive about it and lead them and show them. 50 Cent did this throughout, his entire life. When he had a vision for music, for his career, for himself, he was there on the front line, telling people what he wanted them to do, how he wanted to do it. And that was key. I think sometimes people can be too hands-off. They can put stuff too much in the hands of others. But if you really have a clear understanding of where you want to get to, it is important to lead from the front, inspire people, and be there on the front line with the vision for yourself, for your company, and for any project you have. What else? Definitely I could say that 50 Cent talked about knowing your environment. So you have to know the game that you're in. When he was in the music game in the year 2000, he talked about a lot of people in music still treating it like it was the 1960s. They didn't understand that the game had changed. They didn't understand that the music industry wasn't the same. What's really important to know is that we live in a world that's so fast changing that if you don't play by the new rules, you won't have newfound success. If you look at a company like Sears, the stock price was at 100. In 2005, it's now at 60 cents. They've lost 99% of the value of the company because they played by the old rules. If you look at a company like Amazon, they play by the new rules in a new game. You need to be able to adapt. You need to be able to be flexible as things change. So instead, don't approach life having a fixed plan. Always be prepared to be flexible. Always be prepared to adjust. And the most successful people are. The most successful people in the world are much more open-minded than you may think. They're much more adaptable than you may think. And they don't have all the answers. They react to their circumstances, and that shapes their decision making. The best kind of decision making is the decision making where you take in the most information and then you make an informed decision on the outcome. And I mean, these are just some of the many lessons that I learned from reading the 50th Law of Power. Go buy a book of buy a copy of this book for yourself. I've put Amazon affiliate links for you. And fear nothing, good luck, and I see you all at my next book review.